We often imagine that in the big moments of life, we will suddenly rise to the occasion. We picture ourselves giving the perfect presentation, nailing the critical interview, or performing flawlessly in front of a crowd. We believe that when the spotlight hits us, something extraordinary will awaken within us. But the truth is, we don't become someone new in that moment. We simply become more of who we already are. Hope is powerful, but it's not enough. Hoping that the words will flow, that courage will suddenly appear, or that clarity will strike us like lightning is wishful thinking. Hope doesn't prepare us, it comforts us. And comfort, while soothing, is rarely what carries us through the challenges that matter most. What carries us is preparation. The hours of practice no one sees, the discipline of repetition, the small habits built when the stakes are low. These are the things that show up when the stakes are high. Preparation is invisible, but in pressure it becomes undeniable. Think about an athlete. On game day, they don't become great. They simply reveal the countless hours they've already invested behind the scenes. Their body moves on instinct, not inspiration. It's not adrenaline that makes them skilled, it's preparation. And the same principle applies to all of us in every field of life, in business, in relationships, in leadership. The moments of truth don't reward intention, they reward consistency. The leader who hopes to be calm under fire won't suddenly find calmness if they haven't practiced patience in the small daily frustrations. The employee who hopes to shine in a presentation won't suddenly find confidence if they haven't practiced communication when no one was watching. Preparation rewires our responses. It gives us the tools to act without overthinking, to move with clarity when everything else feels chaotic. It shifts pressure from being a threat into being an arena where our training takes over. Preparation turns the extraordinary into the natural. The danger of relying on hope alone is that it places our success in the hands of chance. If luck happens to align, maybe we shine. But if it doesn't, we stumble. Preparation removes chance from the equation. It gives us something solid to stand on when the ground feels uncertain. And so, the question isn't whether we will hope for success. We all do. The question is whether we are willing to prepare for it. Because when the lights turn on and the pressure rises, it won't be hope that carries us forward. It will be the habits we've rehearsed over and over until they became second nature. We all love the idea that when the critical moment arrives, we will somehow rise to it. We imagine confidence flooding in, the perfect words forming, and strength appearing out of nowhere. It's a comforting thought, but it's also a dangerous one. Because when the pressure is real, we don't get what we imagine, we get what we've prepared for. Hope feels good. It gives us a sense of possibility. We tell ourselves that things will work out, that we'll figure it out in the moment, that the stars will align when we need them to. But hope by itself has no substance. It doesn't equip us with skills. It doesn't sharpen our instincts. It doesn't protect us when everything is on the line. Wanting to perform well is natural. Everyone wants to shine when the spotlight comes. But desire is not enough. The desire to succeed without the discipline of preparation is like wanting to win a marathon without running a single mile in training. The want is there, but the capacity is missing. Preparation, on the other hand, builds capacity. It turns the unknown into something familiar. It takes fear and replaces it with competence. When we prepare, we aren't leaving our performance to chance. We are stacking the deck in our favor. We are creating a foundation we can trust when uncertainty surrounds us. Think about a musician. When they step on stage, they don't hope the right notes will come. They've played those notes so many times that their fingers move almost automatically. The performance isn't created on the stage, it's revealed on the stage. The real work was done in practice long before anyone was watching. In leadership, it works the same way. A leader who hasn't prepared for pressure won't magically find wisdom in crisis. They will default to whatever habits they have built. If they've practiced listening, they will listen. If they've practiced patience, they will stay calm. If they've practiced avoidance, they will retreat. Preparation also changes our relationship with pressure. Instead of fearing the big moment, we can see it as simply another repetition of what we've already practiced. The stage may be bigger, the lights brighter, but the action feels familiar because we've rehearsed it countless times in smaller ways. Without preparation, pressure exposes us. With preparation, pressure elevates us. It reveals not what we wish we could do, but what we've already done so many times before that it has become part of who we are. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many see it as restriction, as something that takes away freedom. But discipline isn't about limiting life, it's about shaping it. It's the invisible hand that guides us toward the person we want to become long before the world ever sees the results. Destiny isn't written in a single moment of brilliance. It's written in the quiet, ordinary choices we make each day. The decision to wake up on time, the choice to practice when no one is watching, the habit of showing up even when motivation fades. These small moments accumulate, and over time, they form the path we walk. When pressure arrives, it doesn't ask what we intended to do. It asks what we have done repeatedly. The athlete doesn't think about running fast in the race, their training simply takes over. The speaker doesn't hope for confidence on stage, their hours of practice ground them. In every case, pressure exposes the level of discipline that has already been built. Discipline is what makes consistency possible. Talent without discipline is unreliable. It shows up some days and vanishes on others. But discipline turns effort into rhythm. It makes action predictable, even when emotions are unpredictable. And in moments of stress, predictability is strength. Think of a soldier in the field. They don't rely on raw instinct when chaos erupts. They rely on drills practiced endlessly. Their movements are precise not because of adrenaline, but because of discipline. The repetitions before the battle create calm within the battle. The same is true in daily life. A leader who practices discipline in small decisions will act with steadiness when big decisions arrive. A student who disciplines themselves to study regularly won't panic before an exam. A parent who disciplines themselves to listen attentively will respond with patience when conflict arises. Discipline doesn't just prepare us for the big tests. It transforms how we approach the small ones. Pressure doesn't invent character, it reveals it. And character is nothing more than the sum of disciplined choices. The stronger the discipline, the stronger the foundation when everything feels unstable. Discipline is not glamorous, it's rarely exciting in the moment. But it is the quiet architect of destiny, building brick by brick through small, repeated actions until one day, when pressure comes, what we've built stands unshaken. Identity is not something we declare, it's something we demonstrate. We can say who we want to be, but the truth of our identity is revealed in what we repeatedly do. Every small habit leaves a fingerprint on the person we are becoming long before we notice the transformation. When we brush our teeth every morning, we don't think of ourselves as disciplined. Yet that habit tells us something about how we care for ourselves. When we choose to exercise or skip it, when we decide to read or scroll endlessly, when we listen or interrupt, each of these small choices silently carves our identity. Habits are not just behaviors, they are evidence. They provide proof of what we value and what we prioritize. Someone who consistently practices patience becomes identified as patient. Someone who regularly avoids challenges becomes identified as avoidant. Over time, habits create the story others tell about us and the story we tell ourselves. In moments of pressure, identity is magnified. A person who has built a habit of calm will respond with calm. A person who has built a habit of panic will respond with panic. The moment does not rewrite identity, it reveals it. The habits we nurture in the quiet are the ones that rise to the surface in the storm. Think about a firefighter. When everyone else is running away from danger, they run toward it. That courage is not improvised, it is a habit. It's the result of countless drills, endless training, and a repeated choice to act in alignment with their role. When the fire comes, their identity as someone who runs in is already written. The same applies in everyday life. A student who has built the habit of curiosity doesn't need to force themselves to learn under stress. It comes naturally. A leader who has built the habit of listening doesn't suddenly invent empathy in conflict. It flows from who they already are. Our habits are the rehearsals for the identity we carry into those moments. What makes habits so powerful is that they don't just influence what we do, they influence how we see ourselves. A person who practices writing daily doesn't just write more, they begin to see themselves as a writer. A person who exercises consistently doesn't just move their body, they begin to see themselves as healthy. Habits hardwire identity into our self-image. And when identity is shaped by those habits, it becomes the compass that directs our actions when life is most demanding. We don't have to think, we don't have to force, we simply live out who we already are. Because the habits we've built have already written the script. Willpower is often glorified as the key to achievement. We admire those who seem to push through obstacles by sheer force of will, as if strength alone is enough to carry them forward. But the truth is, willpower is unreliable. It's strongest in the morning and weakest at night, strongest when life is calm and weakest when stress piles up. Relying on willpower is like relying on adrenaline. It might help in short bursts, but it's not sustainable. No one can sprint forever, and no one can depend on willpower to fuel every decision. When fatigue sets in, when temptation grows, when pressure rises, willpower fades. What remains is the system we've built to support us. Systems remove the need for constant decision-making. A system is a routine, a process, a structure that makes the right action the easy action. When habits are embedded into a system, we don't have to ask ourselves if we feel motivated. We simply follow the path that's already been laid out. Think about saving money. If we rely on willpower to choose saving over spending, we'll lose more often than we'd like. But if we create a system of automatic transfers into savings, the decision is made before temptation even arrives. The system does the work, not willpower. The same principle applies to health. A person who tries to fight cravings with willpower is in constant battle. But someone who builds a system, stocking the fridge with healthy food, setting workout times in their calendar, surrounding themselves with accountability, doesn't need to fight as often. The system carries them when motivation wavers. In leadership, systems provide consistency. A leader who relies only on inspiration may shine in moments, but they risk inconsistency. A leader who builds systems of communication, feedback, and trust creates reliability. Their team doesn't depend on the leader's mood or energy. They depend on the structure that's already in place. Systems also protect us from ourselves. They account for our weaknesses and create guardrails that keep us aligned with our goals. Willpower says, I'll resist. Systems say, I won't even have to resist. One fades under pressure, the other endures. Success, then, is less about heroic effort and more about intentional design. The people who seem disciplined are often simply those who built systems strong enough to carry them, long after willpower has run out. Pressure doesn't change us, it reveals us. When the environment becomes chaotic, when the stakes rise, when time feels short, we don't suddenly invent new behaviors. We fall back on the ones we've practiced the most. Our patterns, whether strong or weak, become amplified under the weight of stress. In calm moments, it's easy to mask bad habits. We can hide procrastination with excuses, disguise impatience with politeness, or cover fear with silence. But when the heat rises, those masks come off. Pressure strips away the performance and exposes the patterns underneath. This is why some people rise gracefully in difficult times while others crumble. It's not that they became different people in the moment, it's that their patterns were different to begin with. Calmness practiced daily becomes calmness under fire. Panic practiced daily becomes panic under fire. Think of a pilot mid-flight when something goes wrong. They don't have time to invent a new way of reacting. Their training takes over. Every drill, every checklist, every repeated practice becomes the pattern that saves lives. The chaos doesn't create their response, it magnifies it. The same happens in leadership. When a company faces crisis, the leader's default patterns are amplified. If they have built a pattern of transparency, they communicate clearly. If they have built a pattern of avoidance, they go silent. The pressure doesn't write their response, it highlights it in bold. Even in personal relationships, pressure brings patterns to the surface. Someone who has practiced listening will listen even when they're frustrated. Someone who has practiced defensiveness will defend even when it escalates conflict. Stress doesn't rewrite behavior, it turns up the volume on what's already there. This is both a warning and an opportunity. It warns us that we can't expect to suddenly behave differently when life gets difficult. But it also reminds us that if we build good patterns when things are calm, those same patterns will carry us when things are turbulent. Chaos doesn't invent character, it amplifies it. And in that amplification, we don't rise to what we want to be. We fall to what we've repeated over and over until it became our default. Excellence is often misunderstood as a single shining moment, the standing ovation, the medal ceremony, the breakthrough success. But those moments are not excellence itself, they are the result of it. Excellence is not born in the spotlight, it is cultivated in the shadows of everyday life. A person who treats excellence as an event will always chase the next big stage. They will hope to summon greatness when the world is watching. But someone who treats excellence as a lifestyle understands that it isn't about performance on one day, it's about consistency every day. The best athletes don't just perform when the stadium is full. They practice with the same intensity when no one is there. The repetition, the discipline, the attention to detail in those unseen hours is what makes the visible performance extraordinary. Excellence becomes who they are, not what they occasionally do. In business, the same principle applies. A company that chases excellence only during a product launch or a major crisis will be inconsistent. But a company that builds excellence into daily habits, in meetings, in customer service, in how they treat their people, creates greatness as a culture, not as a campaign. Excellence is in the small details. It's in showing up on time and following through on promises, in caring about the quality of work even when the task seems insignificant. The person who neglects the small things cannot be trusted with the big ones. The person who honors the small things turns even ordinary work into a reflection of greatness. Think about artists. The most moving performance, the most breathtaking painting, the most powerful novel is never the product of sudden inspiration. It is the accumulation of thousands of hours of practice, editing, refining, and reworking. Excellence lives in their process long before it appears in their masterpiece. This perspective changes how we approach goals. Instead of aiming for one defining moment, we aim to live in alignment with excellence every day. The pressure of a single event disappears when we realize that the event is simply an expression of what we've already made a habit. Greatness is not measured by how well we perform once. It's measured by how we choose to practice, prepare, and show up every single day, because excellence is never an event, it is a way of life. When life becomes unpredictable, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the foundation we've built. That foundation is nothing more than the habits we've repeated so many times that they've become automatic. Habits are the safety net beneath us, and whether that net is strong or fragile depends entirely on the preparation we've done. Every habit is like a brick in the structure of our lives. A single brick may seem insignificant, but over time the walls rise. If those bricks are weak, procrastination, avoidance, inconsistency, the wall will not hold under pressure. But if those bricks are strong, discipline, patience, resilience, the wall becomes unshakable. The critical question is not whether pressure will come. It always does. The question is what habits we will land on when it does. In chaos, we don't have the luxury to invent new responses. We return to what we've practiced the most. The habits we've rehearsed become the defaults that guide us when thinking is clouded by stress. Think about emergency responders. They don't decide in the moment how to act. They fall back on drills repeated thousands of times. Their habits of checking equipment, following procedures, and trusting their training are what allow them to function in situations that overwhelm most people. Their habits are their foundation. The same principle applies outside of emergencies. A leader who has built the habit of listening will fall back on listening in conflict. A student who has built the habit of steady studying will fall back on knowledge during exams. A professional who has built the habit of preparation will fall back on confidence in presentations. Habits always surface whether we like them or not. Habits are built quietly in moments that feel unimportant. Skipping one practice, cutting one corner, avoiding one challenge may not feel like much in isolation. But every choice adds up. Every repeated action, good or bad, becomes part of the foundation we will stand on later. This is why intentionality matters. We can't wait until pressure arrives to build habits. By then, it's too late. The time to prepare is in the ordinary days, the unnoticed moments, the choices we think don't matter. Because those are the very habits that will either hold us steady or let us collapse. So the real question we must ask ourselves is not what we hope to do when the big moment comes, but what habits we are building right now. Because when the moment arrives, those habits will be the only thing we have to fall back on.